boys and girls, and welcome to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. I am your host, Kevin Reed, and this is the review of the brand new action romantic comedy directed by David Lynch, The Fall Guy, which stars Ryan Gosling, Emily Blunt, Aaron Taylor Johnson, Hannah Waddingham, and Winston Duke. And this film follows a stuntman working on his ex-girlfriend's directorial debut action film, only to find himself involved in a conspiracy surrounding the film's lead actor. This film is highly anticipated in my heart and mind because I grew up watching the old Lee Majors television show back in the 80s, which this film is loosely based on. And I just couldn't wait. I remember having that old GMC toy truck and from the show, and I used to do little stunts with it and all this here. That's how I fell in love with stunt work, by watching that show. I enjoyed the stunts, and I fell in love with stunts through watching that show. And so when I heard that they were doing an big screen adaptation of that TV show after 40 plus years, oh my God, I just dated myself like crazy there. I mean, I didn't catch the reruns. I actually watched the show. So that lets you know that uh, I'm up there in age, but that's besides the point. But this film was highly anticipated for me. I was super excited, and you have David Lynch, who is directing this film, who was literally born to direct this film. David Lynch, who is a former stuntman himself, and turned director, whose credits include John Wick, his first film that he co-directed, Atomic Blonde, Deadpool 2, and Bullet Train. He knows action. He knows stunt work. His filmography tells it all. And you have Ryan Gosling coming off of that juggernaut last year of Barbie, where he played Ken and basically stole that movie from Barbie. And you have Emily Blunt, who does no wrong in my eyes. Emily Blunt is just one of those actresses who excels in whatever property or project that she's involved with. No, it doesn't matter what type of film it is, she delivers each and every time. This film, although not a direct adaptation of the old 80s TV show, it still manages to be his own thing, but at the same time honor the TV show at the same time, which was greatly appreciated. This is truly a summer blockbuster, popcorn, turn your brain off movie. It's nothing that reinvents the wheel here. This film is truly a homage or a love letter to stunt performers, to stunt work, and all that the men behind the scene, men and women, I should say, behind the scenes of these action films, who are jumping off of buildings, or jumping out of windows, or getting hit by cars, or flipping cars, or uh, uh, choreographing these fight sequences and getting hit, getting punched, getting everything you could think of that you think as a moviegoer your top ranking stars are doing. No, it's these stunt performers who are actually doing this, with the rare exceptions. You know, you have your Jackie Chans who do their own stunts. You have Tom Cruise who does his own stunts. But for the most part, 99% of the actors and actresses have stunt performers, and it's for insurance purposes, of course, and they just can't do it. It takes a special breed to do stunt work, and that is touched in on this film. And for that reason, I absolutely love this movie for that reason. And this was a film just dedicated to that, and this was the perfect property, the perfect IP to showcase that. So I think that was a genius move by David Lynch and Drew Pearce, who wrote this film, to use the Fall Guy platform as a way to give stunt performers their flowers. Uh, it's up to the Academy Awards to finally follow suit and do the same thing. There's a line in the film about that. Like, oh, the stunt performer, did you do y'all get nominated for Oscars or anything? And he's like, no, you know, they don't, they don't get recognition like that, and I think that's a shame because they do the dirty work, just like the average Joe, who goes out here, your garbage men, your workers in the fields and farmers and stuff like that. They don't get the recognition, those who actually do the dirty work. And so it's good to see that the good men and women of the stunt community getting much love. Uh, let's start with our actors in The Fall Guy, beginning with the star Ryan Gosling, who plays Cole in this film. Ryan Gosling, eh, I mean, what can you actually say anything bad about Ryan Gosling? I mean, think back at all the films he's been in, good or bad. Can you think of anything bad about Ryan Gosling in any of these films? No, you can't. Even if the movie's not up to par, Ryan Gosling is money, just like Emily Blunt. But I'll get to her in a sec. But Ryan Gosling in this film, I really loved it. I loved his performance in this film as this just average guy who does stunts. He's just an average guy. And I've always felt that Ryan Gosling has a way to project ordinary guy on screen, even though he's a good looking guy. He's, I mean, chiseled like he was sculpted from clay or whatever. I mean, the dude is just ripped, and he has the charm, he has the presence, everything about him just screams big time movie star. But for some strange reason, he doesn't project that bougie Hollywood star persona. He just seems like a cool dude that you could sit down and have a beer with or something. You know what I'm saying? And I love Ryan Gosling, and I loved him in this role. And I know he didn't do all of his own stunts, but you can clearly see that he did a lot of them in this film. He really threw himself into this role, literally. And he is also one of the producers on this film as well. But he really really went all in on his role. Enjoyed him, enjoyed the chemistry between him and Emily Blunt. Emily Blunt, I know it sounds like a broken record today, but it's the truth. Emily Blunt in every film has chemistry with every co-star she's been with, everyone. And this is no different. Same thing with Ryan Gosling. He always has chemistry with his co-stars. Think back, and I'm gonna get back to Emily Blunt, but think back to Ryan Gosling in The Notebook if you ever seen it. The Notebook, him and Rachel McAdams, right? They end up dating after that movie was over, but during the production of The Notebook, believe it or not, they hated each other. They couldn't stand each other, but you would never know it. And that film is considered one of the greatest love stories or romantic films ever made because of the chemistry between him and Rachel McAdams in the film. Even though behind the scenes they wanted to slit each other's throat. But that's just the personality that he has. But in any event, Emily Blunt is the same way. And you put these two magnetic personalities, these charming personalities together, you're gonna get awesome chemistry, and you got it here. Emily Blunt plays Jody, the director on the film within the film here. And oh bruh, I love how her character Jody was written in this film. She's not your typical female in an action movie. The damsel in distress, or just the wallflower, or the eye candy, or whatever the case may be. No, she had a major role being just herself. You know what I'm saying? And it just fit. And I loved it. It was genuine. And even though this movie is ridiculous in parts, the love story between Ryan Gosling's character of Cole and Emily Blunt's character of Jody is real. It felt real. And that plot, the love story part of it, the romantic comedy part of it, is the glue that held this film together. Yeah, this film is about stunts. It's about the big action sequences and stuff like that. Yeah, all of that is in there, but the love story is the glue that holds it all together. Otherwise, you're just having a scissor reel of stunt work, you know. And so I, I loved how that was put together. The direction by David Lynch. David Lynch, as much as I enjoy his work, I can point out flaws throughout his whole filmography. But this is probably his best work as a director. And I'm taking the action and the stunts out of it and going story wise. The way this story is constructed and uh, uh, moves, I think is some of his best work. It's not the greatest of work. I'm just saying it's some of his best work, if that makes any sense. I like how he directed this film, the camera work here. There's a scene in this film where Emily Blunt and Ryan Gosling are talking on the phone, and they use split screen to talk to one another. Uh, I thought that was a genius scene. I really loved that scene, the way it was choreographed. It was choreographed like an action sequence, but they were just talking on the phone. And it was beautiful to watch. It like they was in the same room with one another, via the split screen. And I thought that was very innovative and neat, and it fit perfectly in the film. I liked it. I really did. The stunts in this movie, I mean, there's no way I could say this bad. All the stunts were amazing. All the stunts were practical in camera. I don't believe that there was much CGI. I know there was CGI here and there, but I don't think it was much. I think it was majority practical effects. Real stunt performers doing what they do best. Which added to the film. The comedy throughout this film worked. It was very funny. I laughed out loud a couple of times. I laughed. That's not fair. I laughed out loud a few times in this film. It was funny. It was some really funny lines in this movie. The jokes actually landed. you know, Kudos for all of that. Now my negatives, and I have a few. Uh, this movie gets ridiculous at parts. I mean, you have to suspend disbelief a lot, but some in a couple of scenes, it was kind of tough. It was it was kind of tough. Uh, I didn't know if Cole was a stuntman or a Marvel superhero in a couple of scenes. I know stuntmen are beasts. I know they can take a lot of punishment. I know that they're built different. I'll just put it like that. But in a couple of scenes, it was like, really, he's not even going to limp from that, He just, it was just like he get hit by a car and pop right back up, brush himself off, and act like nothing happened, like someone just bumped into him or something walking on the sidewalk. I'm like, come on, let's get a little, have him have a little limp or something. The climax was a little ridiculous. The climax was the movie had me there. They had me going, and then the climax happened, and it was just so thrown together. It felt like it just felt messy and all over the place. And up to that point, it was a pretty tight film. It was pretty tight as far as the story flow, but the end just was like, okay, let's just start throwing stuff against the wall and see what sticks. We know this is a big summer blockbuster, so let's just go crazy with this final scene, this final climactic battle at the end of this movie. And it just felt out of place and sorts. This film, is a little long. It they could have shaved about 15, 20 minutes. And I'm not even including the final scene there or the final uh, 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 climactic battle there. But there were a couple of scenes throughout the film that you probably could have shaved off a minute or two here or 5 minutes here, and you wouldn't have missed nothing. It wouldn't have hurt a thing. But it just felt a little lengthy. You know, once you get to a point of the film and you kind of like, man, we still going? You know, I had to ask myself, I'm like, we're not close to the end here. We haven't resolved this situation right here, and I like, oh man, we still got a whole act to go in this movie. Even though I was enjoying myself, I know that comes off as a little crazy to say, but it, I mean, I'm trying to be as honest with this review as possible. I was enjoying myself, but it got to a point where I was like, man, this is still going. you know, we haven't resolved this yet. It was kind of silly, and the big twist, quote unquote twist and reveal that they threw in there kind of came out of left field as well. But I get it. I get it. But it turned into it. Even the movie says it, so I'm not gonna ding it too much for this. But it's actually a line in the film, like, man, you really gonna have a James Bond villain monologue right now? You know, it's something to that effect. And I'm like, yeah, really, because I was just thinking the same thing. But the film was self aware of that part of the movie, so I really can't ding it too much for that. But it was like, oh, come on, man, really. But besides that, this film was really good. I really do enjoy it. Like I said, it is a turn your brain off popcorn movie and to enjoy in the theaters. Go see this in the theaters. I will say this before I give my rating. When I went to go see this, me and my wife, and we're sitting in the theater and nobody's in there. I'm like, man, nobody's coming to see this movie, and this opening weekend. This is the first day it's coming out. Why is this theater empty? You know, and once the trailers started to roll, another couple came in. I'm like, okay, four people. And then, and then I think two more couples end up coming in there, and so I think about eight people was in this theater. I'm like, oh man, that really stinks. I, it really hurt my heart because I'm like, bro, this movie, because I bought my tickets early because I'm anticipating this was going to be a big thing, but uh, maybe it's just down here in New Orleans because we are having Jazz Fest this weekend, and so maybe that's the reason down here, and you don't have that effect across the country and across the world. Because this film really does deserve to be number one at the box office and make some noise for the next couple of weeks. I think it is worthy of becoming a hit. It reminds me of another Ryan Gosling film, coincidentally, and that is The Nice Guys, which he starred with Russell Crowe a few years, maybe 4 or 5, maybe even longer than that, years ago. Excellent film. Excellent. Came out summertime. Different film, unique film, action film, and it didn't do all that good at the box office, but it was awesome. Still is. I watched it a few months ago on Max, I think. Really good film, but it didn't do good at the box office. This film felt like that. I was feeling vibes of The Nice Guys. If you watched The Nice Guys and enjoyed that film, you would get that same feeling through here, just with a lot more action. The Fall Guy, which is currently out in theaters, starring Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt, get a letter grade of a B minus. I think it is an excellent kickoff to the summer movie season. A fun time in the theater. I would like to know if you've seen The Fall Guy, what were your feelings of it? And if you haven't seen it, what are you waiting on? and not only that, do you remember watching the 80s TV show The Fall Guy with Lee Majors and Heather Thomas, I think it is. That campy, I mean, it was straight up 80s. He was 80s all through and through. I would like to know, what are your thoughts? KB Radio Podcast at gmail.com. You can also look up the KB Radio Network on all social media platforms. Don't forget about YouTube. Search for the KB Radio Network channel. Subscribe to the channel and like this video if you don't mind. Don't forget about the 5 stars, the reviews, and sharing this show. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you are currently listening to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. Everybody, thank you for joining me for this review of The Fall Guy. Can't wait to speak to you on the next go around. I want you all to know that I love you. Continue to love everyone. And until we speak again, you all be blessed.